I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Donald Trump's posts on his social media platform, as well as the platform in general, is just a total grift machine. Donald Trump posts vile, dangerous, and despicable lies, and then he praises his cult followers. And if you are a super special cult follower, he will promote your book on his social media platform, in between his other messages trying to destroy our democracy. So I went on his social media platform, and this was, they call it the sponsored truth post when I was looking at his page, and it is advertising something called Team America Heads to Vegas. Join the Reawaken America tour. This is like the right-wing, fascist, extremist, QAnon-style tour where the speakers call themselves prophets, and they say that they have the word of God, and they talk about like metallic mermaids as a threat to the country. I kid you not, this is stuff that goes on. The last one that we covered on the MeidasTouch Network was held at the Doral Hotel in Miami. Trump's kids speak at the thing, and as these other people who call themselves prophets talk like deranged QAnon stuff. And this is what Donald Trump's kids are involved in, who also promote his campaign, and this is what's promoted on his social media platform. Here was another post as I was trying to go through Trump's post, like it was all like these ridiculous ads. This one says, "Here is Trump's 2023 gift. If you haven't taken advantage of an IRS loophole that Donald Trump left Americans before leaving office, go check out Advance Gold." This is the type of grifty crap that's on his social media platform. Like, how about actually doing things for the American people? How about actually focusing on policies that benefit workers and that make better job conditions and bring manufacturing jobs here? But no, you're focusing on IRS loopholes and destroying the IRS and making up conspiracy theories to help billionaires. That's what's going on there. Here's Donald Trump's next post. He goes, "This is a great day for America. People with extraordinary ability and everything else necessary for success, including future greatness for our country, are finally being rewarded. This is the ruling everyone was waiting and hoping for, and the result was amazing. It will also keep us competitive with the rest of the world. Our greatest minds must be cherished, and that's what this wonderful day has brought. We're going back to all merit-based, and that's the way it should be." I can't emphasize enough how racist and simply flat out wrong this statement is. And it relates to the United States Supreme Court's 6-3 decision, 6 Republicans in the majority, 3 of the Democrat appointees in the dissent. And the case was Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, and another companion case, Student for Fair Admissions versus North Carolina. Just so you know, the Student for Fair Admissions group is run by someone named Edward Blum. He is a right-wing Federalist Society individual who astroturfs these different cases, judge shops, tries to siphon it through other Federalist Society judges to get major precedent overturned. And in the Supreme Court ruling reached on Thursday, it said that if universities and colleges have diversity as any factor in their admissions criteria, any factor, that would be unlawful. I want to be very clear because the term affirmative action is thrown around. But let me be very clear on what the Supreme Court precedent is, just so you know and you can educate people. So any specific quotas or point-based systems regarding minority groups in admissions has always been held to be unlawful since 1978. At least. In a case called Regents of California versus Bakke, the court held that one factor in a myriad of factors a college can consider when it comes to the admissions process is diversity, but that it would be unlawful to have any specific diversity quota. We have to fill 20 seats or 50 seats or 500 seats. That was never allowed. And that principle right there was affirmed in another Supreme Court precedent in the case of Grutter versus Bollinger. And there the court said there can't be any point-based system when it comes to the application process that favors underrepresented minority groups. So you can't say this diversity is 20 points and 50 points, and SATs is this amount of points, and your GPA is this amount of points. If you attribute any point-based system, unlawful. And then in 2016, the Supreme Court reached a decision basically saying the same thing, that any quotas or point-based systems unlawful, but diversity could be a factor. And in the new case, Students versus Fair Admissions versus Harvard and North Carolina, the court said if you factor in diversity at all, as any factor at all in any decision making, that is a violation of law. The Supreme Court says that focusing on promoting diversity is the same thing as segregation. And yeah, the Supreme Court says, well, someone can still talk about their experiences, and if they experienced racism, they can write a college essay on that. However, if the school is trying to promote diversity, that is now viewed as discrimination. Promoting diversity equals discrimination under the modern day Supreme Court ruling, just so you know what that is and what the decision actually holds. So contrary to Donald Trump's statement, mostly all the major corporations on the tech side, whether it's Apple, whether it's clothing like Levi's, all these major corporations, the biggest companies in America, came together and they filed a brief with the United States Supreme Court, called an amicus brief, a Friends of the Court brief. And they told the Supreme Court, if America wants to be competitive globally, you are going to tank our economy if you don't give deference to universities to promote diversity. Because we as corporations do better when we promote diversity. It's how we actually do better economically here and abroad when we promote diversity. Another group, the American Medical Association, said the same thing. You are going to harm our ability, doctors' abilities to save lives if you do not allow diversity at universities, which then leads to diversity in the profession. So you're going to destroy the economy, the major corporation said. The American Medical Association said you're going to kill people. And then 6 MAGA Republican Supreme Court justices were like, whatever, we don't care. Diversity cannot be a factor at all in any public or private school admissions. You may say, why private? If they accept any public money, which they all do, then they're governed by this and they cannot have any factor in diversity into their admissions process at all. But sure, you can keep legacy admissions process and favor legacy admissions, but don't you dare focus on diversity. So I just want to give you the facts. Like, corporations say this ruling is bad and will set us back. The main doctors lobbying group says you will lead to killing people. So enough with this disinformation. Okay, back to the grift. Here, Donald Trump promotes Kari Lake's book. Here, Donald Trump promotes David Bernhardt's book, incredible Secretary of the Interior. Here, Donald Trump posts an endorsement by his aide, Stephen Miller. Like, that you actually need to post that you're being endorsed by your aide, Stephen Miller. One thing I'll mention, though, about Stephen Miller, and it's very much inextricably intertwined to the Supreme Court's decision in Students versus Fair Admissions, the AstroTurf group run by a Federalist Society person, Edward Blum versus Harvard, North Carolina. What Miller's been focused on with his legal group, even though he's not a lawyer, that he created, this so-called nonprofit or whatever, they've been filing letters to the EEOC and making civil rights complaints against companies that factor in diversity for promotions, companies that promote females to senior positions, companies that promote Black and brown, indigenous people to positions of leadership. Stephen Miller said that is racist and that is improper to promote diversity in the organization, these corporations. That's, by the way, where the Supreme Court's going next. Now that they've established this holding in Students versus Fair Admissions versus Harvard, watch. The next step, they're going to say private corporations are acting racist when they promote diversity, the same way they're saying schools are acting racist when they try to promote diversity. So wait, that's the next place they are going to attack. And Stephen Miller's the one kind of pioneering that. See how it's all related? Donald Trump's post, he goes, "The De Sanctimonious campaign is dead. His polls are dropping like a rock, heading to hell. And the DOJ and FBI are continuing their illegal and outrageous weaponization against me only because I'm leading Biden by so much. It's called election interference, and they have no fear against DeSantis. He's the only one they are dying to run against. Dispute their disinformation campaign. It's all projection. Donald Trump, constant disinformation campaign, constant propaganda, constant gaslighting. It is the tactic of fascists. Accuse the other of that which you do. Spread the big lie. That is a fascist technique that Donald Trump knows, and Donald Trump continues to spread over and over again. By the way, DeSantis is like the worst candidate. What was the most recent thing he did? He was like unlawfully flying in a helicopter that was owned by the state of Texas, which was a campaign finance violation and a violation of Texas law. There's some video of him trying to eat a pizza, and he was basically snorting it through his nose. He doesn't understand that you laugh at a joke after the joke is done. He just talks about woke all the, he's like a real, he wipes his snot on his hands. Like, he's a real weird dude, like, and he is a horrific candidate. But look who's rising, Chris Christie, who's calling out Donald Trump. Here's the next post. This one, he says, this is from, he goes, Dan Mauser, a MAGA Republican in the House of Representatives, who runs the so-called Small Business Committee that George Santos used to be on. We need a course correction in 2024. Okay, and the example I gave, we need a course correction. Okay, by the way, let me tell you what the data is. Okay, the data is that of all G7 nations under President Biden, the United States has the fastest growing GDP of all G7 nations. Okay, when it comes to inflation and reducing inflation, the United States of America has reduced inflation more than any other G7 nation, and America's inflation is less than any other G7 nation. So the fastest growing economy of any G7 nation and the lowest inflation of any G7 nation. So the example I gave on the MeidasTouch podcast is, imagine if this was the World Cup and all of the G7 nations were playing against each other and the United States won the World Cup. The best, right? The best GDP of all G7 is the United States. But instead of saying, okay, well, you're the winner, the MAGA Republicans are like, we want to take you back to the time. Remember where you couldn't buy toilet paper and over 1 million Americans were dying? Remember when we cut taxes for the rich and screwed you over? Remember that? Those were actually the betters. We need a course correction back to that. And that's why we all need to be vigilant and just call out their crap and call out these statements like this. Because all MAGA Republicans have is trying to divide us and trying to convince Americans to vote against their interests based on trying to stoke hate and division. So it is incumbent on you watching this to share this video, to share in the comments how you feel, to let others know what is really going on, to spread the truth. I spent last weekend with the Santa Clarita Democrats, 27th Congressional District, currently held by a Republican. That's how I spent my Sunday. We were writing postcards. They were canvassing. We spent a whole day together. It's never too early to get involved. We all need to get involved. That's why we call out this stuff. But now let's take action together, Meidas Mighty. Hit subscribe, share these videos, leave a comment. We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. Check out our podcast wherever podcasts are available. Hit subscribe here. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Thank you. Have an excellent day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.